Okay, so good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the next In Conversation with event with the PA Forum. We are delighted today to be bringing to you a very, very special guest. Joining us today, we have Inez Brown. Hi, Inez, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine, thanks.
Good, lovely to welcome you today. So Inez, I was kindly introduced to you by some of the ladies actually that are on the call today, because I was really interested in your background, your story, where you started, how you came to where you are today, and I think it's just a really inspirational journey. Myself and Inez we had a catch up, and it was really good to be able to hear from her. And I've given her a big list of questions today so she can have a look at those, and hopefully we can get through those for you. And if anyone has any questions, pop those in the chat box and I'll make sure that I ask those for you. So welcome. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
I'm doing fine. I was explaining to Daniel earlier, I'm a bit weary because I had my first vaccine last week Sunday. I had the AstraZeneca, and it's caused immense fatigue. And everyone I speak to, they're saying how tired they are. So I was a bit out of it on Monday, but I'm fine. But I'm just finding feeling a bit sluggish and just wanting to sleep. That's all I want to do. But I know it's because I'm so busy and I was tired before I took the vaccination. So I think it's just telling my body, you need to rest. And I will be resting from Good Friday, thankfully, for a week.
Good. No, absolutely. Well, you wouldn't think today that you felt fatigued at all. I think you look really happy, positive, smiley. So,
Thank
like I
you.
say, it's just really great to welcome you. Now, I was really interested when we first spoke, because you actually started out your career as a legal secretary, didn't you?
Yes, yes. So back in I think it would have been about 1982, I always wanted to be a solicitor. That was my plan. I was going to leave school. I was going to do my A levels and then go on to university. But I come from a family where the women are secretaries and they've been PAs. And so my mother said to me, I think you need to do a secretarial course. And I said, why? I don't want to be a secretary. And she said, well, if you do a legal secretarial course before starting your law degree, it will set you up and give you the foundation with organizational skills. You'll understand how the law firm works, and you'll also develop really good people skills. Well, I didn't want to go for that at all. I was totally against it. But back in those days, you had to really obey your parents. So I went to Solihull College and I did my secretarial course, and it also included A-level law. And what they did was they arranged placements for us. So my first placement was at Pinsents, which is now called Pinsent Masons. And I was there for 2 weeks, and they were really impressed at the quality of the work that I did, that they offered me a job. And back in the 80s, I mean, I'd never worked. And I thought, even though the salary was very, very small, and back in those days, it was like £3,000, but that was money for me. And I wanted that for my independence. So I agreed to accept a role as a legal secretary at Pinsents. And it was a very, very busy day. I would finish at 6 p.m. most evenings. And I think I'd probably typed about 20 letters and put together documents and answered the telephone, and I was worn out. And it was my intention to study part-time in the evening. That didn't work out. I stayed at Pinsent Masons for 2 years, then moved to Wragges, and I worked my way up to become the PA of a partner at Wragges, and then bought my first house when I think I was about 20 then. So I was very young, and decided to move to London. And I was a PA in London for 5 years, returned to Birmingham. And so in total, I was a PA for probably, I think, about 10 or 15 years before I finally made the decision that I know what I'm doing. I can definitely do this job. I believe I'm more than capable. I'm going to go to university. And I was encouraged by the partner who I was working for. She was a sponsor for me, and I studied at the University of Wolverhampton, and the rest is history. So I just wanted to say there is no reason why, whatever you want to do, why you can't change your career. And I am so pleased that my mother encouraged me to do the legal secretarial course, because it really has given me the foundation for in my role as a solicitor, as a partner, and also president of Birmingham Law Society.
That's amazing. I think it's very inspirational. I think when we hear about secretary school, and we talk about it quite a lot. I mean, I don't know, it's evolved so much, but how do you see those skills that you learned then differed kind of in that job? Is it a very different time now compared to how you remember it? And
What's interesting is I really appreciate and understand the role of secretaries and PAs, and I know that I cannot do my job without my PA. At the time that I was a secretary, I was doing probably about 120 words a minute. So I typed really fast. I did shorthand as well. And so we were really organized. And I remember when I was at Wragges, we had this, I used to call her the matron. And she would go around, because it was golf ball typewriters in those days, and you had your carbon copy sheet, and she would come around at the end of each day and she would check that we were sitting upright. So to this day, I still type quite fast, but I will sit perched above the table. My fingers are on the keyboard, because it's all about posture. We've got to make sure that we don't slouch. And if I had more than 5 errors or mistakes on the carbon copy, it was a problem. So it meant that we had to become perfectionists. Sometimes I think that support staff, secretaries, not PAs, don't take pride in what they do. And I think whatever job you do, you've got to do to the best of your ability. You've got to really be interested in what you do, because the end result is going to mean that whoever you're working with, it will that their colleagues and clients will see that we provide a professional service. So I don't think it's changed much. And I know that for any judges, any lawyers, any business people, without our PAs, business would grind to a halt.
yeah, that's fantastic. Great philosophy there. I think everybody can see lots of people nodding on the screen as well. I think it's fantastic to hear how you really appreciate your roots and your foundations and where you came from, and how that's really contributed to where you are today. And we host these in conversation with events, not to encourage people necessarily to come out of the profession, but to challenge them to grow. And I think throughout COVID and what's happened, it's really encouraged people to think outside the box a little bit more about their roles, and how we can try and add value to the role even more as we go through this journey. So fantastic. So have you always wanted to be in the legal sector? Was that always the sector you wanted to get into?
Yes. So when I was at school, I lived on a council estate, and I went to a comprehensive school. And at that school, quite a few of my peers at the time wanted to be social workers or wanted to be counsellors. And I think those are really, really good professions to go into. What I used to do, I used to pop home on a lunchtime. And for those who may recall, and that's not going to be many of you, there was a show that would come on at a lunchtime called Crown Court. And you had all of these barristers with their wigs on, and they were criminal barristers. I was absolutely fascinated by the pomp, the glory, seeing them in their wigs and their gowns. And then I really got into a program called Rumpole of the Bailey. And I knew that I wanted to be a lawyer from about the age of 13. And for me, if I make up my mind that I'm going to do it, I go all out to make sure that I do it. But I have to visualize my goals. And so I would buy myself little statues of judges and put them on my window ledge and dream about becoming a solicitor or probably a judge in the future. When I was at school as well, my teachers felt that I was dreaming too big and that it was an unrealistic ambition. But I, if you tell me that I can't do something, I will go all out to prove you wrong. And with the right support and with the few teachers who encouraged me to make sure that I did get my O-levels at the time, and I've continued to have support throughout my entire journey. And I'm going to talk about allyship a bit later, but it's really, really important to listen to all discussions, constructive or not constructive, and for us as individuals to weigh up our minds and decide what we're going to accept and what we're going to reject. And so I listen to everything, but I make sure that I surround myself with positive thinking people who can encourage me and support me along the way.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. And I think those opportunities then, I mean, that's fantastic to hear about how your childhood has had such an impact in what you are. I mean, I remember I never used to watch that show, but I used to love Prison Cell Block H. I remember it used to be on at whatever time in the morning. And I used to peek my head down the stairs because I knew my mom was watching it. But I absolutely love, you know, that sort of drama and the camaraderie around it. It's great. But those opportunities that you had throughout the career as you moved to London, you grew as a PA. I mean, how different is London to Birmingham? Is it another entity?
It is. It's such a big city. Now, one thing, and the reason I moved back to Birmingham, Birmingham is such a friendly place. It's a place that you can actually walk around and feel safe. In London, I remember I used to hear the term the rat race. And I would get up in the morning and it would take me about an hour and a half to travel into the city from where I lived. I lived in West London. And when I would approach the tube station, just seeing all of the heads, it was like a sea of heads. And for the first time, I appreciated the rat race. Now, with London, it helped me to become more independent. The cost of living was extortionate. It really was very expensive. So although I lived in London, I didn't really get to enjoy London because I was thinking about paying bills in London, paying for my mortgage back in Birmingham. But I would definitely recommend anyone moving out of their comfort zone and going somewhere that's going to challenge them, for them to make new friends. If I could live my time again, I would definitely have stayed in London, but I'm glad that I'm in Birmingham. I wouldn't give up Birmingham for absolutely anything. I just like the greenery, the people, and I think there are lots of opportunities in London, and that again did help me and give me a stepping stone to focus my mind that law was definitely what I wanted to do. But yeah, it's a different world in London.
Yeah. I've never had the opportunity myself, but I've always been to events there and you just go to the tube station, you see all the people. But I've heard that said before that many opportunities, I've had friends that have moved and moved back, but they've always relished that opportunity that they've had within London because it has taught them a lot, both personally and professionally. But those opportunities that came to you when you were, you know, those opportunities to move from a secretary to a PA to a lawyer, how did those opportunities come about? Were these opportunities that you found, or did you have to create these opportunities for yourself?
I think I had to create it first of all by making sure that I was the best at what I did, and everything that I do, I really approach it with pride. and I enjoy what I do. And I would make sure that my partner who I was working for, that there were no mistakes, that it was a very professional service. And I'd get noticed by individuals, and then they would ask me if I wanted to move up to the next level. And it's the same when I became a lawyer. Where I started at the bottom and I worked my way right up to the top until I became head of department, because everything that I do, we all have to work hard and we all have to prove ourselves. So it's making sure that you, are a team player, that's first and foremost. And that you also get on with people. You know, sometimes we work with people that we don't necessarily like, but it doesn't mean that we can't work as a team. And if you work hard, you get noticed. So doors have always opened for me, but it has been as a result of people saying, let me introduce you to someone, look at what Inez is capable of, look at her work. We think we need to give her an opportunity to do something else.
Yeah, fantastic. And do you think the role, because we've seen, particularly, I think, over the last 2 years, a huge shift in the legal sector with roles. So secretaries, some firms have made secretaries executive assistants, some have made them personal assistants, some have the admin assistant role. Do you think the role, and particularly now we're all working virtually, and what I would imagine to be quite a very paper-led original document industry, do you see the legal sector evolving now in terms of the assistant community and how they're working with their partners and their bosses?
So the legal sector is definitely evolving. When I became president of Birmingham Law Society, one of the things that I wanted to introduce as an initiative was flexible working, and not just flexible working for lawyers, because we lose a lot of lawyers, they profession because they become parents, but also for support staff. And we were always told that would never happen. We can't trust solicitors. We can't trust our support staff. So why would we even think of allowing them to work flexibly? And so I decided I was going to start the conversation about flexible working. And then COVID happened in March last year. And if you look at the progress that has been made by way of technology and flexible working now, both in the legal sector and also in the business sector, even our PAs, secretaries and support staff are working at home. And it means that all of us have had to become smarter. We've got to become learn to become paper light, so to use less paper or paperless. We're doing a lot of work where we're saving our work to the cloud, and we can also keep an eye on productivity. Zoom has helped that we can keep in touch with our staff, we can keep in touch with our PAs, emails. The world has shifted and we're now embracing technology. And what this actually means is that for many PAs, they don't need to be office-based. You could work for anyone in the world and still do an absolutely brilliant job because of COVID and the way that technology has moved forward.
Yeah, 100%. And how great that initiative was, you identified that this is something that was really quite achievable within the sector, but no one had thought about it before. Nobody had pioneered it. No one was kind of pushing forward in that space until you kind of put that on the agenda. And then obviously COVID just made it all happen anyway.
I know.
But, first of all, you have to say congratulations on the presidency for the Law Society. I mean, what an accolade that is.
I know.
Fantastic.
I know. It's such a big achievement. And I've been a qualified lawyer now for 20 years. And as I said, I've worked my way up from an assistant solicitor. I've had to struggle. There have been lots of struggles. And if you don't go to some of the Russell Group universities, or I didn't get a first class degree, I was working full time. I was married, so I was trying to make sure that I was providing for my family, and also studying part-time. So I got a 2-2, but it didn't mean that I didn't have the ability to rise. And I've worked really, really hard to make sure that whatever service I provide to my clients has been first class. I've made sure that I know my trade. And for me, it's very, very important to nurture, to supervise and to train junior solicitors so that we can all be part of a team successful. And I've always said that if I'm able to do my job and give 100%, and with a lawyer, it's about billing as well. And if I can be a high fee earner, but my junior staff can't, we're not working as a team. It's just about me. And I don't want it to be just about me. And interestingly, the way I became president of Birmingham Law Society, I'd been volunteering with them for 9 years in different roles. And in 2016, someone invited me to become joint honorary secretary. So I went back to a secretarial role for the Law Society, where I had to make sure that I understood governance. I was taking minutes for different meetings, organizing events as well. And it was as a result of mixing with the officers and also with the board that they saw the potential in me, and then invited me to put my hat in the ring for the deputy vice president position in 2017. And then in 2020, I became the first Black president in 202 years of the society. So some achievements.
Absolutely fantastic. And I think, as you say, to get involved in those types of communities and those institutions, societies, is something really important. Not only you're representing the business, but you're also representing yourself, and it challenges you to kind of have those achievements that you've always kind of set out to do. And those extra, it's kind of classed as extracurricular, isn't it? It's always
absolutely
volunteering extra time that you're giving to that organization, but because you want to be part of that change and make things happen. And so how does that, so do you get elected? How does it work? The members?
So how it normally works is you have the president, and beneath the president is the vice president, then the deputy vice. So it's like a 3-year lead in. And what normally happens is people will declare that they want to become the deputy vice president. And then there's a hustings, and you need to go before council, so the chamber of council members, and you need to almost produce a resume as to why you should be the next deputy vice president. But luckily for me, in 2017, no one put their hat in the ring apart from myself. So it was pretty easy sailing. I was just voted into the position. And I think that many were not sure what to expect, because in meetings, I'm quiet and unassuming, and I speak when I need to speak. So I'm not sure that they knew what to expect. But again, I go back to my secretarial days and my organizational skills. And when I was the deputy vice president, I started thinking about what are my initiatives going to be as president, because with the Law Society, we offer a service to our members. So I'm president, presiding over 5,500 solicitors, barristers, legal executives, trainees and paralegals. And we have to make sure that we keep them engaged, that we provide learning and development for them, and that we raise the profile of the society. So I thought, what am I going to do, and what is my legacy going to be to the Law Society? So I thought about my background, coming from a disadvantaged background, and how I would never be the person that I am without the support and the allyship and mentorship from different people. And so I decided that I was going to set up a diversity inclusion scheme. And what that meant was I was going to speak to 2 universities and ask them to sponsor 2 students from disadvantaged backgrounds or underrepresented groups, and pay for their legal practice course. Now, you're talking about £14,000, roughly that amount. And everybody said, That's not going to happen. Nobody's going to give you that amount of money for 2 students. And my grandmother has always said, if you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah.
Contacted my Wolverhampton University. I'm an alumni of that university, and I put my plan to them. They said, leave it with us. Now is the right time. Everybody's talking about diversity. They agreed. And then the University of Law agreed. And I thought, well, we can't just leave it at that. We need to make sure that we help these students and introduce them to the legal sector. So I need to provide mentors for them, work experience, and help them to be able to get a training contract. So my firm signed up to that, and so did Gately Legal. So when I became president in July, it was launched in August. The students started in September. So that's a tick. And then I also thought, the legal sector, we are like dinosaurs. I love paper. I do medical negligence, so I have to go through reams of medical notes and expert reports, and I have paper all over my desk. And I started to think, we need to try and find a way where we move forward into the 21st century as far as technology is concerned. So I want to set up a law and technology committee and engage with the legal sector where we will embrace technology. Again, I was told that I was 5 years ahead of myself, and COVID happened. I have set up the first Law Tech Committee. We've got funding that's coming in from London, and the West Midlands Growth Partnership are also providing funding and training and support to the Law Society. And we are going to help small and medium-sized firms to move into the 21st century as far as technology is concerned. So my 3 initiatives that I thought about way before COVID are all up and running. So I'm really pleased.
That's fantastic. Oh, that's brilliant. And what a short space of time to have all those things implemented, and throughout a global pandemic. So I think that's an incredible achievement. You must be so proud. I think diversity and inclusion is something that is so important at the moment, particularly the past year's events have really highlighted the importance of that within businesses. And are you finding now that many businesses within the legal sector are really embracing the diversity and inclusion policies and updating those and making those meetings more accessible for people? The education around different cultures, different backgrounds is kind of becoming regularly available now, and it's not such a taboo topic that people feel awkward to talk about, but the conversations are really starting to happen now.
Yeah, and I think it's I think before the events that took place with George Floyd last year, conversations were taking place, but as a result of what happened, and we know the trial is going on now, so it's reignited the conversation about diversity. Discussions are taking place, and what we don't want is for it to just be talk shop, but to see change. And firms are signing up to change. And what's happening, actually, the world is changing so much so that as lawyers, we need to provide our service to the public, but the public are holding us to account. So for businesses, when we are tendering for work, they are saying, okay, we're not sure that we want to work with you unless we know what the makeup of your organization is, whether it's diverse and whether it's inclusive. Now, for me, it's, as a Black person, it's very, very important that ethnicity is at the top of the agenda, but also sexual orientation or those who are disabled. I think there needs to be inclusivity right across the board. And I think that if we all become inclusive and accepting of each other, the world would be so much better place. Who would want to be in a world with 100 of me? It'd be such a boring world. We are all so different, so diverse, and we need to be accepting of each other. I'd love to get to the day when someone doesn't see my colour first. So when I first became president, they kept saying Inez Brown, the first Black president. And I think about 4 months in, I actually said, when I look in the mirror, although I'm Black, I don't see my colour, I see Inez Brown. And it would be good if the world could become colourblind, or we could become blind to discrimination. So that's what I would like.
I think I must admit, when you sent your biography through, which I think, I know it says on there, the first Black president in 202 years, since the 200, and for me, I thought to myself, I know that is an incredible, that's an incredible accolade, but I thought to myself, when I was posting it and putting everything up, I thought, I wonder why I need to say that, because I don't see, for me, I don't see that,
Yeah.
you are,
Yeah.
a strong, powerful female woman at the top of her game on the, at the top of the society, and that's what I see. And I think for us as a community, particularly with PA Forum, 99% female populated group, there's a lot of work to be done in this industry with gender as a very, very basic, without any kind of, without any other kind of diversity and inclusion factors as well. So I think there's just so much work that does need to be done. But it's really interesting to see how the world has suddenly accelerated everything that it needs to do to try and get itself to where it needs to be, because of the tragic incidents that happened with Floyd last year. So
I know.
I think it's an incredible achievement. But when you did send your biography, I was thinking that, but it is great to see a female Black woman at the top of the society, which I think is fantastic. So
I think it was a statement that was being made, first Black in 202 years, which is, although the society was boasting about that, it's not very good in 202 years. And hopefully, that will change going forward.
Absolutely. And I think technology was another thing that we touched on, because we're very, very heavily populated with professional services at the forum, and suddenly the accountancy firms and the law firms, and everybody wants to know about these technologies, about how to go paperless. And, it's amazing how much money the offices have saved. I mean, I spoke to one legal firm the other day. They said they've saved £25,000 in hospitality alone on copy. Just because people aren't in the office. But obviously going paperless and onto a cloud system, etc., is just another world. And I think pioneering that technology and putting that committee together to be able to look at that is something that we all need to think about to try and boost that into the future as well. So if anybody wants to find out any information about that, where would they go? Is that on the Law Society website?
So it is that the Law Tech, we've got a page with our Law Tech, but Birmingham Law Society is now part of the Super Tech cluster for the West Midlands, and that includes the property sector. So you've got prop tech, fintech, which is the financial sector, insure tech, and then law tech. So what we're trying to do, and it's the first cluster that's been set up outside of London. In fact, there isn't a cluster in London where you've got professional services who have come together and said, we're going to make sure that we move together as a unit into technology. Now, I was talking to my colleagues this morning because we were talking about a client returning paperwork so that we could sign them up as a client. And the client hasn't signed the paperwork yet. Now, there's a organization called DocuSign, where you can get wherever they are, they can sign virtually and then they can return the paperwork. And I had to say, why are we not using that technology? Why are we still waiting for people to sign a form, put it in the post, wait for it before we can open a file? That is just so historic now. We need to move forward. And so there's so much technology. You also have e-contracts that a number of conveyancing companies are using. So you get these electronic contracts coming through and you can sign them even the courts have embraced technology, and we're having virtual hearings. If you think about this time last year, we all knew about Zoom. But if you look at February or January, only a few companies were using Zoom or using Teams. We just did not embrace this technology. And I would travel around the country to see my clients. Now I can send them a Zoom invite, and I can talk to them in their living room. Great that technology has moved on. It really, really is.
Absolutely. And I think that's another thing you touched on, travel time. Do you think, I'm really interested to get your feedback, do you think you're busier now than you were before, because we are in a remote working environment? Because, for example, before you'd have a meeting with a client, you might have a gap in the middle, you'd be able to, you might have travel time, etc. Now we are going from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting. So do you think we have, as a society, we've become more busier because of the environment we're in at the moment?
I think we have become busy, and I think that we need to make sure that we apply work-life balance, otherwise we're going to burn out. And we've heard about a lot of people suffering with mental health and talking about well-being. And I found that as president, and I'm still running my busy practice, even though I am president, sometimes I can have 6 to 10 Zoom meetings a day. Now, that would never happen if we were all together in an office. You'd probably have 2 meetings a day, and then you'd be able to get your work done. And people, as a result of increasing technology and as a result of COVID, have become very, very impatient. They expect a response to their emails immediately. And what I have to do is manage my clients' expectations by I I will start to reply and then put it in my draft box, and I'll come back to it later. Otherwise, I'm spending all day managing my inbox and I can't get anything done. I think it's really, really important as well that we take breaks. So I'm in the office today and I do 2 days a week in the office. But when I'm at home, I take a break at 11 for 5 minutes, walk around, get some fresh air or put some washing in. And I do the same again. Lunchtime, I take my break, and at 3 o'clock. So you're getting those breaks during the day. Otherwise, we begin to suffer with screen fatigue. And I attended a technology seminar a month ago, and they were giving tips about email delays, where you can actually draft an email and you can put a time on the email. I didn't know about this, so that the email doesn't land in your inbox at 10 p.m., 11 p.m., midnight, and you feel obliged because you've got your phone to check the email and to action. So we need to start thinking about each other's well-being and making sure that we get the breaks that we need. But it has become a much more busier world, but we've got to take control and manage people's expectations.
Because I think as the pressure builds for you, that it's also then how do you manage that relationship with your PA or EA or your secretary, to not, that stress doesn't automatically then, you're thinking about your own mental health, but also the mental health of the people that are around you as well, because obviously if you're busy, they're busy, and so it's trying to manage that relationship and keep that motivation up there as well. 100%. So
absolutely. Do you all have Big Hand? Do you use Big Hand? So what I do, I use Big Hand, and to not put too much pressure on my PA, I if it's red and it needs to go out, I'll put it red. But I tend to put due by quite a lot, and I will send her stuff to do by Thursday. Now she's going to do it by today, I know she is, but I will make sure that I put the due by so she can take her time. She's also lucky that because of my background, I still do a lot of my own typing and drafting, and then she'll say, no, give me some more work to do, and we work really, really well together. So
I
yeah.
think that's another challenge as well. Is I think from conversations we've had previously, is you want your executive or the person you're working for to give you more, but sometimes it's hard. It's hard because they might be doing that themselves, or they might be used to doing that themselves, and having the confidence to be able to say, please, give this to me. I'll look after this for you. So it's a very, very fine balance of a partnership, isn't it, between the both of you? So
it is.
and what would you say then? I saw in the news last week, Nationwide have given a very, very bold statement saying anyone can work from anywhere going forward, any office, any time, any place. How do you feel about flexible working now in the future? How do you see that being? Let's say we come out of this in a really positive way, and there's opportunities for people to go back into the office or work from home. What's your vision to kind of see going forward?
So my vision, interestingly, pre-lockdown, I was definitely campaigning for flexible working, and I'm still an advocate of flexible working, but I think it's important that everyone does at least 1 or 2 days a week. And I would say minimum 2 days a week in the office, because I think we're losing that culture where we can stand by in the kitchen and just have a conversation, or the water fountain, and just find out how people really are. I find that with Zoom, whilst I love it, I want to see faces, and sometimes because of what we're doing at home, or we've got children, we turn our cameras off, so we don't get to interact with each other. I do it myself. If I'm not hosting a meeting or speaking, I turn my video off so I can be doing things in the background. So we're losing that interaction with each other. I think for junior staff who need the training and the support as well, they are not getting the right supervision, because you can't supervise remotely. You can for those who are experienced, but not for junior solicitors who are learning their job. So I would definitely want us to get to the stage where we continue with flexible working, but then we work from home 2 days a week, maybe 3 days a week, and keep that culture. Now, what will happen is you're going to find that for landlords, they're going to lose a lot of business, because people will no longer need as much space as they did historically.
I think that's the challenge going forward now, is people thinking about different ways they can maximize their office space. Do they use, if they're only using half the office? I mean, you've got companies like PwC, you've just had a brand new office built in the middle of Birmingham, which is it's a beautiful place. It's got so much space, and now we're obviously going into a very different environment. I just hope that the office culture does stay. And I think about this event, if we were doing this event in the middle of, we would normally be doing this in the middle of the city, in a nice venue somewhere, myself and you having a chat at the front with all the audience there. You'd be able to see their reactions, feel, they'd be able to ask questions, etc. And it would just be a very, very different type of experience, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
So sooner we can get back to that. And myself, coming from a hospitality background, I can't wait to be able to support the hospitality industry again and try and get them moving 100%. So what would you say then? What would you say have been your biggest challenges throughout
I think my biggest challenge was when I became a solicitor, a new solicitor, and learning when things are not going right, learning when to speak out about it, and learning how to speak out. So I didn't get the right support and supervision that I needed to as a newly qualified solicitor, and I was really, really struggling, and I was not getting the real nurturing that I needed to, and I struggled for a few years. And I think it got to the stage I'd go home and speak to my husband because I didn't know what to do, and he said to me, you are the only person that can change your future. You need to tell someone that this is happening. And so I decided to prepare a report about what had happened, the cases that I would be bringing in the next few years, and what I would bill in the next 3 to 4 years, so that I could see that I wasn't just a useless solicitor who didn't know what they were doing. And I met with HR and spoke about it and said, look, this can't continue. I need the right supervision. I need the right training. Thankfully, they were able to change my supervising partner, and I received the best training that any solicitor could ever want. And for me, that has taught me that if there is ever a situation that is not right and that is going to affect you as an individual, you need to find someone that you can speak to in a private, secure space, and make sure that changes are take place. We hear about misogynistic behaviour in the workplace. If that's affecting anyone, we need to be able to call it out. If there is discrimination, we need to be able to call it out, but remember that we still need to work with our colleagues. And so for me, the challenge is knowing when to speak and what to say.
Yeah, I think talking from experience, I think we refer to it sometimes as courage, but it's not. We feel it's courage because we feel nervous about it, but actually it's our right to bring it up, and it's our right to speak about it, because we should be working in an environment that really gets the very best out of us. And so it's a fine line, isn't it? We always feel nervous, which is human nature if we do, but look at that's a really positive story to see the outcome that you've had.
Yeah.
And again, that's contributed to who you are today. And I think what would you if you could kind of give some nuggets of wisdom to our audience today, what would you say to them?
I think I would say that you need to believe in yourself. I love my husband dearly, but he's a really, really wise man. And in the early days, I always felt that I needed to be accepted by everyone. And he said to me, no, you just need to accept yourself. Know that those around you accept you, and then anyone else who accepts you is an added bonus. So I would say, believe in yourself, believe what you're capable of and what you can do. That's the starting point. Second, dream big. If there's anything that you want to do, do not allow anyone to prevent you from doing it. It doesn't matter what. It may be that you want to change your career, you want to, who knows, whatever you want to do, you can do it if you put the commitment and the hard work into what you do. Take pride in what you do. Really enjoy life and enjoy what you do, and do whatever you do to the best of your ability. I would also say, make sure that you surround yourself with positive people who will not stamp or blow out your torch, your dream. You want people who encourage you, who are going to work with you, and who will be happy with your success. So those are the nuggets that I would give to you.
Your husband sounds like a very wise man. Love those words. It's brilliant. And thank you for sharing those with us. Words of positivity, which we do really need. We need that uplift. We're nearly there, hopefully, coming out of this. And it's just great I think COVID has allowed a lot of us to really think about our presence and what we want to do. We're at a pinnacle point of where we can go. And I think some people have made those decisions. Some people are thinking about those decisions. And I think there's still a lot more change to come. And we can either embrace it or be scared of it. And I think if we embrace it, then that's when the magical things happen for sure. Now, the Birmingham Law Society has an awards ceremony every year. It's fantastic. Our awards applications are open at the moment. What would you say to any of the, your colleagues within the industry, or any PAs or EAs that are out there and thinking about the awards this year? What would you say to them?
So I didn't realise that there was an award for PA of the Year, those who go above and beyond. And I was really, really pleased that you circulated that. And it made me think about my own PA, who I've nominated for the awards. And what I am going to do is circulate it, and I have already, actually. It took place yesterday, to members of the Law Society, because as I said earlier, we cannot do our jobs without you. We really, really couldn't do it. And so I want as many lawyers to be able to nominate their PAs, those who go above and beyond, and the different categories. I've Googled you, Daniel. I've also Googled the Society. I've gone onto your website and I can see the amazing things that you do and the awards. I want to be part of that award by nominating my PA, and I want the legal sector to be part of that award. So the message has gone out. Hopefully you will be flooded with applications for nominees, and I'm hoping, when is it due to take place, by the way?
So we provisionally the 5th of November, which will be our 5th birthday as well.
Okay,
so,
okay.
Are hoping to have it by, well, hopefully the event will take place in Birmingham and to be on the 5th of November, but hopefully with everything with the COVID restrictions we can get back to having a face-to-face.
Absolutely, and I'm looking forward to being with you all at those awards. I'm hoping it will be in person. My president's dinner is going to be in September, and I'm hoping we'll be back to normal then, even if it has to be reduced numbers with us wearing masks. I think we all need to come out and have a celebration together to celebrate coming out of lockdown, but also your achievements.
No, thank you. And I think, you know, for us, that means a lot that you've shared it with your members, because the legal sector has such a massive population of secretaries, PAs, admin assistants, and for them to be recognised and celebrated is just awesome. So I'm very grateful to you, and can't wait to tell, well, she knows now, we can't wait to tell your PA that she's been nominated. So I would just like, if anyone has got anything they'd like to ask Inez in the chat box, please put that in if you before we go. But I would just like to say a huge and personal thank you to you for joining us today. I've been really looking forward to this interview, and I think it's been hugely inspiring. So thank you so much for joining us. And just before we go, you do events, don't you? That we've talked about some of the events that we would like to promote.
Yes, actually, that's a good idea. Now, as president as well, I am also entitled to nominate a charity to support for the year. My charity is the Brain Injury Trust, and they provide support to families where children have been in a road traffic accident and sustained a brain injury or any type of brain injury. And so, I think the screen had just frozen for a minute. And so I was trying to think of ways that I could raise money for my charity. And I came up with the concept of an evening with the president of Birmingham Law Society. And so in January, I interviewed Cherie Blair about the Cherie Blair Foundation, where she goes into developing countries and helps women to become entrepreneurs. So she spoke about her journey, which was from a not a council estate. It was she didn't go through the conventional route to become a lawyer either, and her father left her. So she spoke about that. And on the 12th of May, I have invited the Right Honourable Stuart Lawrence. He's the brother of Stephen Lawrence, deceased. So he'll be talking about the tragic death of Stephen, his brother, the Stephen Lawrence Foundation, the Stephen Lawrence Day, and also his book. So I will keep Daniel updated, and I would really ask you all to book a space. It's normally £15, but everything goes to the charity. And you're able to take part in the virtual event. And so that's an up and coming event. And I am hoping to do a final event in either July or September. But again, I'll keep Daniel informed.
Send everything through to us. We'd love to be able to support you as much as we can. But thank you. I hope everybody has a lovely Easter. I hope you get some time for some R&R and some to regenerate those batteries, recharge those batteries again. I just want to say, Inez, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you to our audience today, and we look forward to hopefully catching up with you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. Take care, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.